Dear brothers and sisters in Christ, are we capable of living a life without worrying unnecessarily or excessively? Is it really possible, especially in the modern, complicated, chaotic, and also the broken and the battered world? Could we really live without unnecessarily worrying about our tomorrow, about our future, especially the future of our children? Because as you know by experience, as we could observe, the world seems to be getting worse and worse, or going from bad to worse. And in a world like that, of course, people's anxieties would increase apparently. And unavoidably, people are worrying more and more compared to, let's say, 5-6 years ago or 10-20 years ago, because the world has become so or enormously complex and complicated. Therefore, in proportion to the complexity of the world, people have also begun to worry more. So, could we not come up with a solution to this problem? Is there a way out of this predicament? And is there any meaningful thing we are capable of doing, either individually or collectively? What is the way out of this dilemma? What is the way out of this kind of a perennial trap? Now, Jesus had thought and dealt with such situations. That's why he has proposed some meaningful solutions to this dilemma. I will read a passage from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 25 to 34. This is a passage all of you know and have read, but let's try to understand and try to live out its deeper meaning. Now, when it comes to a biblical teaching when it comes to biblical teaching, the most important thing is not only understanding them properly or interpreting them properly, but trying to live out the deeper meaning of these teaching. Then only we begin to see the truth that is contained in these passages. Let me read that passage. Therefore, I tell you, do not be anxious about your life, what you shall eat or what you shall drink. Know about your body, what you shall put on. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap, nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they? And which of you, by being anxious, can add 1 cubit to his span of life? And why are you anxious about clothing? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow, they neither toil nor spin. Yet I tell you, even Solomon in his all glory was not arrayed like one of these. But if God so clothes the grass of the field, which today is alive and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, will he not much more clothe you, O men of little faith? Therefore do not be anxious, saying, what shall we eat? Or what shall we drink? or what shall we wear? For the Gentiles seek all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them all. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things shall be yours as well. Therefore, do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Let the day's own trouble be sufficient for the day. As I mentioned, we are quite familiar with this passage, and yet, what is the difficulty in all of us, or what is our struggle when it comes to living this truth out? Why do we worry excessively, if not most of the time? Is it not lack of some trust in the process of life, as well as in the creator of life, or in the creator of this universe? Now, the thing is, faith in God need be sustained. It does not happen automatically. Actually, the thing that happens automatically to human is the experience of worrying. That has become kind of natural to us. It has become kind of our second nature. Because in order to worry about life, in order to kind of have anxiety about future, we do not need any training or any formation or any discipline. It kind of happens automatically. It's like it's a bit like, in order to sin, we don't need a training, we don't need a formation. Anybody could easily sin. But in order to live a holy life, in order to resist against sins, in order to avoid sins, we need a lot of inner discipline. We need a lot of self-discipline. We need a lot of hard work and spiritual formation. It's something like that. So anybody could easily be worrying about future. But to live at this moment, or to live life meaningfully on a daily basis calls for greater maturity. So we need to first of all recognize the problem. This way of life is actually ultimately the most meaningful way of living life. But in order to live life that, we need a lot of hard work, we need a lot of spiritual preparation. If not, if we simply follow our emotions, our sentiments, what will happen? We become victims of our own anxiety. We would be victimized by anxiety. We will be enslaved by our future worries. So what we should be doing when we begin to worry excessively, we need to examine the source of our worrying, or the real root cause of our anxiety. Whether we have real reasons behind our anxiety, or whether we have unnecessarily manufactured it. So we need to examine first of all whether the reason behind my anxiety, my worrying is a real one, or whether it has some solid basis, or whether I have unnecessarily and mentally and kind of in my imagination manufactured it. So once we make that distinction, once we feel actually behind my anxiety, behind my worrying, there is no valid reason, there is no solid reason, then I need to become realistic about it. Of course, anxieties come and go. So if they come, let them come. We should not be panicking. Let them come, let them go. So, the one way to go about it is actually based on his teaching. When you receive anxieties or when you begin to become anxious about certain things, even in your anxiety, remain calm, remain cool, and accept them, befriend them. You see, you stay with them. Don't become anxious about anxieties. That is something that would happen to most people. They become unnecessarily anxious about their anxieties. They begin to worry about worrying. So we should not be doing that. We should not worry about our worrying. We should not become anxious about our anxieties. We should remain very calm and quiet and realistic and very cool about them. Let them come, let them go. Let them pass by me or pass through me, and then of course they will not remain with me forever. You know, any feeling, any sentiment is something temporary. It's not eternal. They come and go. The important thing is our attitude towards them and how are we going to handle them. So, no need to worry about worries, no need to be anxious about anxieties. They come and go, and then I should remain in God. So, in the midst of all these anxieties, all these worries, is the most important thing is one's experience about God. Of course, most people experience God, no doubt about it, even non-Christian. You know, when it comes to God experience, there is no monopoly. But the thing is, or the challenge is, or the real secret is, whether we could sustain, whether we could maintain our God experience on a daily basis. Most people have that experience. They have it, after that they kind of forget it, or without their knowing they move away from that experience. But the real challenge in life is to maintain that experience, to sustain that experience until the day we die. When we do not sustain that experience, anxiety sets in. Anxiety increases. So here the important thing is we should not be focusing on anxiety, although it's a reality, but our focus is not anxiety. Our focus is not worrying. We need to recognize about it. Of course, we need to become aware about them. We need to become honest about them, about our anxieties and unnecessary worries. But the real focus is not on anxiety, but on God. So when we lose the focus on God, or when we take away our focus from God, then we begin to focus more on anxiety, less on God, or more on worrying, less on God. You see, that's the real trouble. So even in the midst of all our anxieties, all our inner struggles and turmoils, our focus should be on Him, relying on Him totally. You see, that is the real meaning of the Hebrew word, the Old Testament word for faith is emunah. If you write E-M-U-N-A, emunah, means that you totally rely on the one and the only one who is reliable. Then you feel so secure. You are not afraid of anyone or anything or any challenge. You are not afraid of future. And not only that, that reliability should be maintained and sustained. And also it should become bigger and bigger. Reliability on God or relying on God is not a stagnant process. It's not a kind of a fixed and a stagnant and a ready-made process. No. As you grow older, you must rely on God more and more and more. The more we rely on God, the more we must rely on Him. So for an example, if I rely on God this much, if my reliability is this much for an example, by tomorrow it should be this much, this bigger. And by day after tomorrow, this much. By next week, even bigger. So it's a growing experience. So more and more and more I rely on Him. And also the more I rely on Him, the more I must be determined to rely on Him. Then what will happen? I worry less and less. You could experience this, you can verify it actually. The more we trust on Him, the more we rely on Him, the less we worry. The less we trust, the more we worry, or the less we rely on Him, the more we begin to be worrying about our future and our life and whatever the problems we may be facing and encountering in the future. Now, this is not a concept actually. This is not an idea. Of course, you could conceptualize about it. No doubt about it, you could come up with very polished, very refined concepts about them, but it's fundamentally a living experience with living God. So it is a living experience with living God. Then you know this is the secret of our life. And also then we become very realistic about life. This realization Christ talking about here is a fruit of deep God experience as well as deep contemplation about life. For an example, when he says, which of you by being anxious can add 1 cubit to his span of life? That means by worrying, in other words, can you improve your lot? Can you improve, for an example, your economic situation? Like let's say you don't have money, and then by being by worrying, can you improve your economic situation? Can you increase your income? Or can you increase your health? Or can you increase your happiness? Or can you increase your meaning in life? Or can you improve your relationships with your family members, neighbors, and friends? You see, what could you gain, in other words, by worrying or by being anxious? Is there anything you could gain or you could improve upon? Absolutely nothing, right? If worrying helps to solve our problems, then no problem, go on and be worrying. And worry more and more and more, because worrying will solve our problems. Therefore, there is nothing wrong with that then. But it will solve nothing. It will solve no problem in life. Absolutely not even a single problem. Therefore, if it is a unproductive thing, a fruitless thing, why do it? Why we be doing it? Right? So one has to become realistic about worrying also. In order to do that, one needs a little bit of contemplation, one needs a little bit of reflection about life. Then one realizes the futility of it, the uselessness of it, the emptiness of it. And there is another solution to that. That solution is to rely on God. When we do not rely on God, when we forget God or when we move away from God, actually we worry more. That's the real source of our anxiety, because when we lack or when we do not trust totally in God, we begin to be worrying. So in fact, but you have to look at it from a biblical perspective. Anxieties and worries give us opportunities. In this sense, When we have a lot of anxiety, that means we have a lot of opportunities to rely on God. For an example, if I have today 100 worries, 100 anxieties, that means I have 100 opportunities to rely on God. So even through anxieties and worries, God is going to do something. God is doing His own thing in and through us. So we need to look at anxieties, worry from the perspective of God. That's why I said earlier also, we should not worry about our worries. Worries come and go. Anxieties come and go. Let them come and go. Let them come, stay with us, and then disappear. Right? Let them come and pass through us or by us and fade away. So as a result of this experience, as a result of facing them, if we could get bit more closer to God, so then anxieties have done their duty. Then God had used them also for our own goodness, for our own spiritual benefit. God could even use anxieties and worries. Therefore, we must not get kind of panic about them. We must not get kind of, we must not lose our inner freedom when we face them. Every situation can be used by God for our own benefit and for our own spiritual growth. In fact, this beautiful teaching about anxiety, Christ delivered. Why did He deliver? Because He saw the anxiety of His own disciples and the people during His time. So as a result of their situation, He came up with this beautiful teaching. And also He saw the real problem. Real problem was lack of faith. That's why He says, O men of little faith. O men and women of little faith. He saw this is the problem. This is the heart of the matter. Yeah. Lack of faith in God. So when we develop and when we cultivate faith in God, we could face and overcome our anxieties. Now, if one honestly feels that one lacks faith, there is a solution to this, a biblical solution, which is we need to ask for faith in faith. We need to ask for it from God in faith, of course. If we doubt it, the thing is we will not receive it. So anything we can receive from God if we ask them in faith. In faith means you get closer at the same. You are asking for it while getting closer and closer to Him. Lack of faith means we are moving away from God. You see, while moving away from God, He is not going to deliver it. He is not going to give it to us. Because while we are moving away from Him, we are asking for it. You know, there is a contradiction in it. If we are moving away from God, it means we don't believe in Him. We don't trust in Him. So how could we get something from Him when we do not trust Him? Even in ordinary life, we do this. Let's say we need some money from a friend of us. Of course, if we want to borrow money from a friend of us, we should get closer to him. Right? Even physically, we should get closer to him and make the request. If we ask for some money while keeping a distance, let's say from several meters away, like 10-20 meters away, we are asking for some money from our friend, he will be worrying. He will be kind of surprised. This person is not getting closer to me, keeping a big distance and then still asking for help. Even with regard to God is the same. When we ask for something from God, we should get closer and closer and closer to Him. Getting closer means we are believing in Him. We are relying on Him and it will be delivered unto us. So that's why Christ is saying, people of little faith, you are not trusting enough in God. You are not believing enough in God. No wonder you are worrying and not happy, and then very bitter and very negative about your future and always complaining. So, the solution actually in this analysis about anxiety, Christ has also the solution. It's growing faith in God. It's this healthy, growing, and very honest faith in God. So, faith, true faith takes away all our anxieties, all our worries, and it gives us this interior assurance, this inner security, this inner sense of reliability, and also this inner sense of kind of you are all right, that you are secure. There is no reason to worry about the future, no matter what is happening in the world, etc. So, Christ is inviting us to overcome our doubts and our pettiness when it comes to our faith, and to become gigantic and to become big in terms of our relationship with God. Then there is no reason to become anxious about tomorrow, no matter what is happening in the world. So, this invitation is for all of you. Thank you very much. May God bless you all.